Whoops. Oh, you know what? There's a problem here. Big problem. I forgot to set things up properly. Whoops. I forgot to animate the slides. You know what? That's part of the learning experience, baby. YouTube, today we are talking about anomaly characters and why Hoyo seems to hate them right now, and how Aria might be able to change this. Before we actually start talking about anomaly agents, let's first talk about the history of the anomaly class in general. Yes, Polychromatica class is in session. So, one thing that is very important to know is that the only way to get anomaly agents was to spend money. When you started the game, you really did not have options. You had to spend money in some way, shape, or form. 1.1 is when they released Jane, 1.2 was Bernice, 1.3 was Yanagi, and Miyabi was 1.4. You could get Grace if you were lucky. Like, if you just happened to pull a standard agent, there's a possibility you got Grace. And if you wanted one anomaly agent, you were stuck with Piper. Piper was the only option available, but because of the team she wants to be in, you still want a character like Bernice or Grace. So you would still really want to pull for those agents. The other thing Anomaly had is that because they were on a banner so frequently, the game created a lot of end-game matchups that made them look really good. And they also did not really have any bad matchups. And by bad matchups, I mean there was never a fight where you were thinking, man, I wish I didn't have an anomaly agent. Or you're saying, man, I wish I had an attack team instead. Usually in most fights, early on in the game's life, I'm not talking about like 2.5, I'm talking about 1.4, having an anomaly team was a really good thing. And yes, there's a reason Rampant Brute was released alongside Jane. On Jane's release, I swear, so many people were hyping up Jane as this like, oh my gosh, she deals so much damage, can you believe it? They're using Jane against Rampant Brute. Rampant Brute, the first thing he does is shock himself, and you need any other anomaly to disorder him. It's like, yeah, of course Jane's going to look good against the boss that literally disorders himself. Hello? That's also why Jane didn't feel as good later, because people realized that, oh, wait, I can't get disorders with Jane by herself? No, you can't. You need Bernice. That's why we're selling you Bernice. Ooh, don't you want a disorder with Jane? Another thing about anomaly teams, they benefited really well with the ult changes. They were already good before, and the ult changes made them even better. I don't think I can fully describe how impactful the ult changes in 1.4 were for anomaly teams specifically. As a result of all of this, Anomaly was way overtuned compared to other classes. Anomaly could do everything that attack could do. That's not the right word. That attack could do in terms of damage, but they were just better. For Anomaly teams, 2 DPSs are better than 1. Your damage is much more consistent and it's much more powerful, especially because compared to a typical attacker team, you're basically funneling all your damage into one character. Here's a better idea. What if we could funnel 70% of those buffs into 2 characters? And because they both get ults and you're both building them as DPSs, your damage ceiling is not as high, but it's much more consistent across the board than like an attacker DPSs, where it might spike during stun and then the rest of the time it's kind of flat. Whereas with anomaly teams, it's pretty much always high, depending on how quickly you can disorder. In fact, they were so good, they were even able to steal agents designed for attackers. And not only that, they use those agents very well. Turns out, Trigger has an additional that increases her days, and that never matters because it's only her days on her Aftershock basics. You know what does matter though? A relatively unconditional 35% damage buff, and if you have her W engine, a 25% defense shred. Trigger was absolutely, unintentionally really good with anomaly teams. It was actually crazy. And it's not that Trigger was better on anomaly teams, but because anomaly teams were already relatively better, putting Trigger on anomaly team was usually a stronger move than to put Trigger on your attacker team. So now that that's out of the way, that's around like the 1.5, 1.6-ish era, because Trigger came out in 1.6. Let's advance a little bit further past that. versions 1.7 to 2.1. We got Vivian, Alice, and Yuzuha. Vivian is really important for a variety of reasons. Because of the game's design, Ether and Ice were the two very most important elements they were selling. Vivian gets the benefit of having very few ether-resistant enemies. It's Sacrifice Jester, right? Or Heretic Jester, whatever his name is. The clown guy. Clown snowman guy, you know him. He actually resists ether, so that's interesting. But apart from that, pretty much any anomaly fight you would want to bring Vivian in, Vivian was incredibly good. Her Oblooms made her damage more accessible and more powerful than Bernice in anomaly teams. The reason is, because Bernice is much more reliant on energy than Vivian, there are times when Bernice just doesn't have the energy to do the things she wanted to do. This is pre-buff Bernice, by the way. I know. Yeah, Bernice has been buffed. Great. Pre-buff Bernice. She did not really have a ton of energy unless you pulled for her W engine. Vivian never had to worry about that because Vivian's Oblooms were not reliant on her energy. And so because of that, she was much more reliable on getting your Oblooms, which in turn makes your Disorders more reliable as well. As for Alice, the best way I can describe Alice is that Alice is like the really good qualities of Yanagi with the really good qualities of Miyabi. Yanagi, she can get a part of her own disorder buffs, like she can get her own personal disorders. They're not underpowered, but they're not full power disorders. They're a little bit powered. They're powerful, but not super powerful. Alice just has that. And she has it on her charged basic, which is, oh my gosh, a level 3 charged basic? No way, that's crazy. There's no way they would release another agent with a level 3 charged basic. That's crazy. And then we get to Yuzuha. Oh my gosh, what is this character? This character was the support anomaly agents dreamed of. She gives 1200 attack. She has her own unique anomaly buildup, which means her stats won't be calculated in the final damage. You don't have to worry about her base stats ruining your anomaly damage. She could give around 12% anomaly buildup, anomaly damage, disorder damage, and the entire team 25 energy whenever she ults. It's crazy! And you might think, wow, this is like really giant statistics for the team. Anomaly is a bit harder to build than attack teams from a substat perspective, because they really only want attack percent and anomaly proficiency. Yuzuha comes in and says, hey, here's a giant wall of stats. And on top of that, if you got her W engine, her additional buff would max out at 20%, and then her W engine would give 30 base anomaly mastery and 60 base anomaly proficiency. I think that's what it was. Let me double check that. But I just want to make sure, because I know it's a buff that applied to her specifically, but I don't know if she gave that buff to the team. Let me double check. Correction, that anomaly mastery buff was only for Yuzuha. But because of Yuzuha's special anomaly buildup stuff, that essentially meant you got more disorders anyway. Yes, Sentry Drift pointed out, Yuzuha is just, how do I say this properly? Yuzuha is better than Astra, because Astra does not deal damage or daze. Yuzuha does both. Like, Yuzuha's damage is actually really relevant. With how powerful Yuzuha is, these are signs of the end. But before we get there, let's talk a bit about the Void Hunter in the room, Miyabi. Here's the thing about Miyabi. Miyabi is the weirdest anomaly agent because she's a crit DPS who also has high enough anomaly mastery to make freezing enemies reliable. The other thing about Miyabi is that basically not every, I'll say 70%, I'll make up a number that sounds right. 70% of the important enemies in Season 1 were just weak to ice. So Miyabi was just good everywhere? It was actually insane. I don't think I can fully convey how powerful she is in her ideal environment, but I will try a bit later. I do have a video prepped for it. So what was the best of Anomaly? Out of all of what we just talked about how powerful and influential Anomaly agents were and what they did for the game, what were the two most powerful Anomaly teams of all time? Mono/Yuzu Ice, Alice, Yuzuha, Jane. You notice something odd about this? Where's the disorders? These are all physical agents. Mono Ice, they're all ice agents. How can you disorder with that? Hello? Well, that's the funny part. So very briefly, the funny thing about Mono Ice is that freezing an enemy pauses everything about them. You might think, what do you mean by everything? I mean, that includes their stun duration. For those who don't know, Frost and Ice are separate anomalies, and because of that, you could chain your Frost freezes and your Ice freezes back to back, and that would give you disorders for some reason. You can guess where this ended the class. What do you suppose happens to an enemy that is always frozen? Take a wild guess while I pull up this video for you guys. I found the original source for this video and I downloaded it myself. So this is an M0 team. They have their W engines, but otherwise they are Mindscape Zero. Even, actually, it's less than Mindscape Zero. Yuzuha doesn't have her W engine, but Miyabi does. I want you to look up here. When this goes to the colored numbers, I want you to count with me. We'll count it together. We'll slow it down, in fact. All right, so now it started flashing. Pay close attention to this number up here. It says 218. We went forward, how far forward did we go? We went forward about 5 seconds, or 8 seconds. He's still stunned. Another 5 seconds. He's still stunned. Another 5 seconds, still stunned. Another. Oh my gosh. Let's look at the ending time for when this stun ends. This started at 218. It is now 149. Yeah. That's, and you might think, oh wow, that's really long. That's like 30 seconds. You might think, wow, that's insane. That's really good. It gets even better. If you have a Mindscape 1 Miyabi with a Mindscape 2 Yuzuha, you can get something that looks like this. Again, pay close attention to the timer. So he's stunned right here. He's entering his stun wobbly whatever phase. The timer says 214. Now let's advance. Let's keep advancing. Let's keep advancing. Let's keep advancing. Hello? Huh? What is this nonsense? Hello? What is that time? It ends. It pretty much ends during the Yuzuha's chain attack. So we'll say it ended. We'll say it ended right here. It's like 124. Reminder: this started. It ended at 124 and it started at 214. That's what happens when you can chain freezes back to back. So, as you can guess, there is a reason. Some people might wonder, why did they take away the ability to freeze enemies? It's because of nonsense like this. Yes, this is, by all means, not an intentional design choice. This is definitely an accident. I mean, it's not a surprise. Hoyo making freezing enemies too strong and then making it so no enemies are freezable anymore. That's insane. But that is par for the course. So when you ask, like, why are they making enemies not freezable anymore? It's because of this reason. And honestly, it's not even Miyabi's fault, really. It's this lady here. It's this girl here. If you remove Sokaku from these teams are never this good. This is why they bring back season 1 bosses seldomly. So that Miyabi players can feel good. They can feel alive or something. I don't know. The point is, this is just not fair for any other characters. They can't do this stuff. He got 36,000 points during one stun rotation against Bringer. That's insane. Yeah, so the point is, this is one of the strongest teams in the game, and it's very unfair to every other class. Now, very quickly, I don't have Alice and I don't have Jane. So, like, I am speaking from a little bit of inexperience. Why this team specifically? Like, why not Alice and Vivian? Like, why is Jane here? Because Jane has a fun little quirk. Her core allows assaults to crit. There's like a fixed number thing to this. Basically, your assaults will deal more damage. That's what it means. This damage is also buffed at Mindscape 2. And funny thing about Alice's charged basic 3, it is a guaranteed disorder even with physical. And she can build up her blade etiquette to do her charged basics very well. So essentially, Jane is a glorified support that just says our assaults will deal more damage and our guaranteed assaults are also going to crit. So if you've noticed, here's an issue. What do these teams have in the terms of limitations, if you put these teams, Mono Ice and Yuzuha, Alice, Jane, if you put them in their ideal fights, what is stopping them? Like, what is handicapping them from doing literally everything? It's not like they have to play around stun. I mean, Mono Ice does play around stun, but they don't have to. They get to. They really abuse stun. No, not really. In their ideal teams, if you have like perfect rotations, not that I have perfect rotations, yes, the internal cooldown timer does play a factor. It's not low enough though. In my personal opinion, it's not low enough. Player skill is the only thing gatekeeping this. And as it turns out, the devs don't really want players to get that skilled. Ice has no issues freezing enemies. If you were fighting an Ice weak enemy, a Season 1 Ice weak enemy, you are freezing them pretty easily. And Alice has no issue getting assaults or disorders. And this kind of power it's not really okay. It's a bit too much. Like, imagine if the ideal attacker team just said, hey, the enemy is always stunned. You would say, oh, that's too good. Like, that's too powerful. Like, at least Hugo has to pay for Mindscapes to make sure his totalizers don't immediately end the stun duration or something, right? Hugo has to pay for that. This is like a full team. How do you possibly nerf the full team? What can the devs do in this situation? Are you ready, chat? Ha! Nice anomaly damage, dweeb. Season 2 bosses just hate Anomaly. How do I know this? Well, let's take a look for ourselves. Okay, let's look at this together. Chat, this is Notorious Dead End Butcher. You've known him, you love him pretty well. He's a boss designed for like anomaly teams, get a disorders, more damage. Here's his stuff. Max anomaly buildup, 3,300. It's a bit higher than like the base 3,000 it usually is, but he's a pretty standard boss for anomaly teams. Let's look at the creature, the unfathomable miasmic fiend. Oh, those numbers are they're a bit higher, don't you see? They're 3,600. What the heck? Also, her stun damage multiplier is lower. In case you were thinking about possibly freezing her, you can't, but okay, so they raised the anomaly buff for the anomaly boss. I mean, I guess that makes sense. It's not like they would do this for every boss, right? Right? Here's Pompeii for the record. Pompeii is the base 3,000, and he's not like an anomaly boss. His max buildup is lower. The more you know. Yeah, I just want to show Hans off real quick. Hans is also a pretty standard boss. His base anomaly max buildup is 3,000. So as you can see already, it's like, okay, they raised the max anomaly you need to get your anomalies. Okay, that's a little bit of slap on the wrist. That's not too bad, is it? You're right, that isn't too bad. So let's look at the worst ones. Let's look at the Defiler real quick. Blah, 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 blah. The Defiler receives 25% less attribute anomaly damage. Let's look at that buildup, shall we? 3,960? Hello? Blech! That's disgusting! And of course, you can't have a high stun multiplier against this boss. Okay, this is a bit harsher, you know? It's not too bad though. Maybe there's some better bosses. Let's look at Miasma Priest. When a Miasma Priest switches phases, their anomaly resistance increases by 10%. This stacks 2 times? What's her buildup like? Okay, it's not that bad, you know. She doesn't hate anomalies too much. She absolutely does. And finally, maybe the Thrall's not that bad, right? The Thrall? I'm sure he's not that bad. Hey, look at the, it's back to 3,960, whatever. Let's look at this little thing. Each stack of contract increases all attribute anomaly resistance by 15%, and this stacks 3 times. Also, you can't anomaly his little crocodile demon thing. Good luck getting a disorder on this guy. And the funniest one of all is Wandering Hunter. Because if you actually read Wandering Hunter, he's not that bad. He's a boss designed for Rupture agents, obviously. But you can disorder this guy, right? No, you can't. It's 4140. No. Obviously, you can like force a fight with like Miyabi Bernice. I actually did that. Yeah, this is really high. In fact, we can calculate this. If you were comparing the base 3,000 unmaxed anomaly build-up bosses, okay, That's 38% higher. That's kind of a large gap, but maybe it's not so bad. That is until you remember that in Deadly Assault specifically, they increased the maximum anomaly buildup you need on bosses by 10%. All of those numbers I showed you, they're technically lies. So his max is not 4140, it's actually 4554. Divide that by 3000. That's a 52% increase. Hello? So you can see, they really hate anomaly teams. They do not want you to play anomaly teams against these bosses. You obviously still can. You can force it. I did it myself, but it is not fights they like to be in. Oh, I did say it here. Bosses of Deadly Assault are buffed to have a 10% max anomaly buildup. For context, imagine if there was a boss that just said, in this mode, I am immune to crit damage. That would be wild, right? Like, that would be weird. You would say, what the heck? That's a bit excessive. Like, you could say I take reduced damage from crits, not just I can't be crit. And then you remember, oh, right. So there are two bosses that essentially say you can't do disorder anomaly damage. It's this guy's Crocodile and then Defiler's Meteor. Defiler summons a meteor or something, and you can't do an anomaly on that. So yeah, that's a bit much. And finally, let's address it. Let's address the big issue. What are the actual problems with anomaly teams right now? As of right now, I would say the biggest problem is that they cannibalize each other. What does that even mean? That sounds like a bunch of nonsense. How in the world can the teams cannibalize each other? Right now, anomaly teams lack variety in their supports and their matchups. If your account does not have Dial-In and it doesn't have Astra, your attackers still have a lot of supports for them. Are they as great as Dial-In or Astra? Probably not, but they're still really good. You have Trigger, you got Jafufu. If you're Fire or Ice, hey, you got Lighter. And if you're like, well, what about supports? Well, you got Nicole. I mean, you can actually use Yuzuha very well as a support for attackers. And right now, we just got Zhao. But Sukaku's like, hey, here's 1,000 attack. Okay. Anomaly doesn't really have that. They have one fantastic support, and then that's about it. Right now, the best teams for most Anomaly agents are Insert Agent, Yuzuha, and Vivian. If you're an Anomaly agent, this is probably your best team. Why is that? Well, let's address it. The reason is because Disorders are the only consistently viable playstyle for Anomaly agents. And by that I mean, this is based on the current cycle of content we have. There are obviously exceptions to this, but they could definitely change this, and they will probably change this. But as of right now, the best thing you can do with an Anomaly agent is get a Disorder with them, which kind of means you have to play another Anomaly agent, or you force Nicole or Sukaku to become Anomaly agents. Sukaku's very good at doing that, and Nicole's okay at doing that. So my conclusion for this segment is that all current Anomaly teams cannibalize each other because they want as many Disorders as possible, and that's all they care about. Because Disorders is like the primary way they deal damage, this is the only thing they are gunning for, and because of that, they are kind of tearing each other apart. And that's because Vivian and Yuzuha are the best for that as of right now. That could change in the future, but as of right now, if you are wanting a Disorder team against the current endgame content, it is Insert Agent, Vivian, Yuzuha. That is the team, and you can't really deviate from that. As I said before, the reason is because Yuzuha is a giant stat stick for every Anomaly team. And most teams really, really want her, especially to keep up with current content. For some reason, if you were trying to force an Anomaly team against Wandering Hunter, his max Anomaly buildup is 51.8% higher than Season 1 bosses. And that means there is no equivalent replacement for her. Seth is not enough. Is that true? From what I'm aware, I'm pretty sure the max cap for Anomaly stuff is a specific DA buff. I'm pretty sure that was the case. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that was tested. Post-production Yojimbo Blade here, someone in chat kept saying that the numbers I was showing was incorrect. I was claiming that this max Anomaly buildup is Wandering Hunter's base stats, and then it increases in Deadly Assault because Deadly Assault has a max buildup increase of 10% for all bosses. Someone in chat kept claiming that this 10% was part of Wandering Hunter's base max Anomaly buildup. And I thought, you know what? Just in the off case that I am wrong, I want to make sure because I don't want to deceive anyone when I make these claims. And so I double checked this. Sure enough, no, I am correct and I can prove it. So how do I prove that? What you're about to see on screen is Nicole, Anomaly Mastery on slot 6 and 2-piece Anomaly Mastery. So Wandering Hunter's base max anomaly buildup is 4,140. In this run, we are only using Nicole's dodge counter. Nicole's dodge counter technically has two separate hits, but they do the same amount of damage. I don't know why exactly they made it like that, but they do. If you look at the base data for Nicole, you can see, this is hidden information by the way, the game doesn't tell you this, but in the game's code, her dodge counter has 31.64 anomaly buildup, and because it hits twice in a row with the exact same stats, this number is doubled. It has the same stats except for the energy you gain. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you. It doesn't matter what your skill level is for your moves, the anomaly buildup will never change. So because of that, we can use this as our baseline to figure out how many dodge counters does Nicole need to get a corruption. And the math is pretty simple. 31.64 times 2 because the move hits twice, 63.28. What else is there? Anomaly Mastery. Here's the thing about Anomaly Mastery. Every point of Anomaly Mastery counts as 1% anomaly buildup. Nicole has a base of 90, but because of our slot 6 gives 30% Anomaly Mastery and Phaethon's Melody gives another 8%, those are added together, they're not separate multipliers, so it's times 1.38. Anomaly Mastery on Nicole is 124.2. I'm going to come back to this 0.2 in a bit. On screen you only see 124. Secretly it is 124.2. The game only shows you 124. So here's the math for this. How many dodge counters would we need to get one corruption? It's pretty simple. We take Wandering Hunter's max anomaly buildup. We divide that by the anomaly buildup of our move times Anomaly Mastery. But remember, each point is 1%. So it's not 124.2, it's 1.242. And this is how many dodge counters we would need. And lo and behold, when you watch the footage, it is 53 dodge counters to get a corruption. Now let's adjust the math a bit. Because there's a 10% anomaly buildup in Deadly Assault, what's the number for Deadly Assault? Well, you just do this, and would you look at that? It's 58. You would need 58 dodge counters to get one corruption. However, in the footage, it took 59. I know because I counted them all. Why in the world did it require 59 dodge counters when the math says it should be 58? Because here's the thing, the game keeps track of this 0.2 anomaly mastery for your builds, but when you actually go into the fight, it doesn't look at this. And so in actuality, we only have 124 anomaly mastery on Nicole. And here's how that changes the math. You just take away that last 2. Okay, so this one still requires 53 dodge counters to get a corruption. But let's take this one, and oh, would you look at that? It requires 58 and just a little bit above. So because of that, we need 59 dodge counters. The game doesn't tell you all of these numbers exactly, but there are resources available to find this information. When I'm wrong about something, I will admit to it. I will say, hey, you know what? I messed up. I misled you. I'm sorry. I apologize. I was not wrong. This is the truth. Deadly Assault is much harder for anomaly agents than it used to be. And no, before anyone asks, oh, Wandering Hunter, he has a miasma shield. Well, guess what? That doesn't change anything. I chose Wandering Hunter specifically because he doesn't have any extra nerfs to anomaly in his kit. He just buffs sheer damage and he has a high base anomaly buildup requirement. If you are fighting Wandering Hunter in Notorious Hunt, you can test this for yourself. I'm not trying to make this up saying, oh, you should just believe me. No. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to test this. In Notorious Hunt, you will need 53 dodge counters to get a corruption. If you go into Deadly Assault, if you do dodge counters with Nicole and only dodge counters, no EXs, no holding your basic attack for the big bombard damage, you can't do that. Only dodge counters, it will take you 59 dodge counters in Deadly Assault. That is the math. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to test this for yourself. And if you don't want to test it, that's fine. I've tested it. This is what it is. Anyway, I'm just annoyed that a guy was saying, hey, actually, your numbers are wrong. No, my numbers are right, and here's the proof for it. That's it. Bye. Drifting away, wave after wave, wave after wave. If I am wrong about this max anomaly buildup thing, including this, then I will make an addendum, but right now it doesn't really make sense. I will double check when I actually make the video. Why is Seth not enough? Because Seth gives 100 AP. Great, that's fantastic. Does it help me overcome the 30% anomaly increases? No? Okay, then why would I put him on the team? He's not doing enough. I mean, I would love for Seth to be really good, but he just isn't. Like, he doesn't do enough for the team. And Vivian is simply the best generic option to support generic anomaly teams, and there is not an equivalent replacement. Because most anomaly fights, again, are either weak to Ether or neutral to it, which makes her better than Bernice in pretty much every case. It's also really hard to make another really good anomaly team, especially when anomaly teams have only had one regularly occurring enemy to fight, and that is Miasmic Fiend, specifically in Deadliest Hold. There are some like Shiyu enemies they can fight, like Jester. Jester has been around pretty frequently. The one that's been around regularly, like pretty much every other week, has been Miasmic Fiend. The other ones we have every now and then are Notorious Dead End Butcher. Bringer has showed up like once. He showed up like 3 weeks ago or something. Butcher is also very weak to Ice and Ether specifically. And what does Miasmic Fiend resist? She resists fire and freeze. No matter how much they buff Bernice, it wouldn't change how bad she feels to use against Fiend. Right now, because of how the elemental weakness matchups for anomaly teams, Bernice would love to fight enemies that are neutral or weak to fire. Those anomaly matchups do not exist because Miasmic Fiend specifically resists fire. So even if they buff Bernice, it doesn't matter because the matchup she would want to be used in resists her element, so she feels bad to use. Most Season 2 bosses have this, but because Fiend has it specifically so she can't be frozen, or I should say, you can freeze her, but she will immediately shatter, so she can't stay frozen. Because of that, Miyabi can't excel like she used to, but that also means that Miyabi doesn't really like fighting this boss. Let's talk a little bit more about the Miasmic Fiend. I calculated this recently. This was her HP on release. She released on July 25th. This is when Deadly Soap first came out. This was her HP on release. If you wanted to get 16,000 points, this is not including performance points, this is just the base damage points. If you wanted to get 16,000 points, that required 23 million plus HP to get through. That sounds like a lot, but with how much damage you deal during fights, it wasn't actually that high. So let's compare that to her most recent appearance in 2.4. Why did I put this at the wrong date? Hold up. So chat, pretend this says November 28th. So about like it's 5 months later. How much HP does Miasmic Fiend have 5 months later? 37 million to get 16,000 points. I don't care about getting kills. I'm never a player who's going to get a kill. But I can get 16,000 points. Here's the problem. That's 58% higher. Hello? This 58% increase isn't necessarily a problem, but what have anomaly teams been able to get to make them 58% stronger? In the time frame of this 5 months, what has released for anomaly teams to become more powerful? The answer is absolutely nothing. Vivian got a summer outfit. So did Jane. Jane got an outfit. She got it in winter. Off topic. I've heard people say a ton of times, oh man, ZZZ would make way more money if they sold skins. They would make a bajillion money. That might be true, but they make way more money by selling agents. There's a reason why they are not rerunning Jane and they gave you her free outfit. There's a reason they didn't put Jane on the rerun banner. It's because they want you to spend 155 bucks to get her in the shop if you don't have her. You could get their Mindscapes, their W engines and substats. You could farm for substats if you want. Did I put the slide here? Yeah, that doesn't add up to the 58% increase. I got a drive disc with +3 more AP. Ooh, that's great. Does that get you to 58%? No? Okay. Someone mentioned before in chat, oh, they got Yuzuha. It's like, yes, but Yuzuha was available on release with Miasmic Fiend. So Yuzuha is not a new addition to the team. She was in the team. Has Yuzuha had a rerun yet? Yeah, exactly. If for some reason you missed out on Yuzuha, you're just stuck. Like, you have nothing to do right now. You're stuck with Seth, and Seth is not helping you overcome this. Like, I don't care how much you love Seth and adore him. Seth is not helping you get 58% more damage on your team overall. That's not happening. Let's look at Vivian's Mindscapes. Mindscape 1, when all guard feathers consumed, blah, 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 all attribute and disorder damage received under Vivian's prophecy increase by 16%. Hey, a 16% damage increase on your anomalies and disorders? That's pretty good. Does it get us to 58%? No. Yeah, so like, that's why I say the solution is, oh, just pull their Mindscapes. Like, okay, that didn't solve the issue. The issue is, that's a giant HP jump for no real reason. It would have made like more sense if there was like a strong, like a rerun that happened before, then we got a brand new agent or a buff or like a W engine that made anomalies much more powerful. There hasn't. If you didn't pull Yuzuha in the time she came out, Miastic Fiend has become 58% harder to fight, and there's nothing you could have done about this. You should have pulled better, moron. That's what a skill issue is. Rezi's coming to the realization, yes, the devs have worked very hard to make Anomaly teams feel bad. It's almost like they're trying to sell you a brand new Anomaly agent. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Let's talk about the buffs that Anomaly characters have received. They've been potentially screwed. They had their potentials unlocked, but do they matter? Bernice and Grace got their potentials unlocked, so that's a buff for them. That's nice. Here's a fun question though. Are they on a par with Vivian? So, here's the thing. No. No, they just aren't, unfortunately. The real reason is because Vivian is just better than Bernice or Grace, even if they had equivalent power, because of her being an ether agent. I know that sounds weird, but again, so many Anomaly enemies right now are weak to ether or just neutral to ether. And that's not the same with fire and electric. Miastic Fiend is obviously weak to ether, and Notorious Dead End Butcher is weak to ether. Most Deadly Assault matchups, Vivian is just always better than Bernice and Grace, even if they had equivalent levels of power because she matches the elemental weakness. Granted, I think this is okay as long as there are teams or bosses where Bernice and Grace are really good. But there aren't. We have a Shiyu recently. Hey, Room 2, you know, this boss, Terror Raptor, he's weak to fire and electric, and hey, this floor buffs are electric and fire damage and our anomaly and attribute stuff. Wow, that's great. That's a one floor thing, and then Terror Raptor is gone. Yeah, that's not enough. Like having oh wow, Grace and Bernice are really good for this one Shiyu. It's like, great. Are they really good for every other Deadly Assault? Oh, no. Okay. For the record, I am not saying like Bernice and Grace are like bad or something. The context is, again, if you already have Vivian and you are trying to make the best Anomaly team, you're not replacing Vivian with Bernice. It's just not happening. Funny enough, this guy does resist ether, so you would want to use Bernice over Vivian in this fight. That is fair, but he's not a regularly reoccurring enemy. Now, if he is, if we see him 3 more times in the next 2 months, I would be impressed. I'd be like, whoa, they actually made a boss for Grace and Bernice. That's relatively consistent. Good job. They haven't done that yet, so I don't believe there's a reason to believe they will. So let's have a quick recap. What are the best Anomaly teams on average? Based on the content that we currently have, we're not talking about a theoretically perfect scenario of like, oh, if they made a brand new Deadly Assault boss that is weak to ice and fire, that is also an Anomaly coded boss, then the best Anomaly team would be, no. That's we're not talking about that. What is in the game right now? What do we have? Do not pull for what might theoretically exist. You should pull for content that you currently have right now and that they are going to make in the next patch. The best team for Piper is Yuzuha Vivian. The best team for Grace is Yuzuha Vivian. The alternative is like a Monoshock team with Rina and Harumasa. Grace can pivot to that. Monoshock is currently not very good unless you're R2. Jane. Jane's best team is being either carried by Vivian or carried by Alice. There is not really... I'm not saying Jane is bad, but like Jane is not the star of her teams anymore. Miyabi. What are the best Miyabi teams? If the enemy is freezable, it's Yuzuha and Sokaku. If you don't have Yuzuha, you can swap her out for Lycon. And if the enemy is not freezable, it's like Dylan plus Astra or something. You can actually use Dylan Yuzuha. That might sound really weird. For those who aren't aware, I'm pretty sure the best Season 2 big boss for Miyabi is the Thrall. That sounds insane, but reminder, Miyabi is a crit DPS that can do a lot of really high damage in a very short window. And the Thrall is a boss that is pretty easily stunnable. So you can just force Miyabi to be a crit DPS in that fight, and she does pretty well. You are not getting disorders or anomalies in that team, but you are dealing a lot of damage still. Yanagi, same thing. What's her best team? It's Yuzuha Vivian. The alternative is she can be a support for Alice. That's possible. Alice doesn't need Yanagi. It's good, it's fine. For Bernice, I got no clue. We just had a Shiyu where Bernice was really good, but like seriously, right now, if you have Vivian, where would you ever put Bernice in a team over Vivian? Inferno Metal teams? Miyabi plus Yuzuha? Like, oh, I already have Miyabi and I have Yuzuha. I'll just use Bernice because I have her. Sure, yeah, you can do that. You can try to fight Wandering Hunter, I guess. Bernice currently has one good boss in Shiyu defense. That boss is going to go away and he will probably not reappear for a while. Vivian has had repeatedly ether weak enemies that are in her anomaly coded fights. That is why she is so much better than Bernice. If those enemies were instead weak to fire, we wouldn't be having this discussion. We'd say, oh wow, Bernice feels so good. She does so much anomaly buildup or something. That's the one thing that annoys me about the Bernice buffs. I think in their video they said something like, oh, we noticed that her anomaly buildup wasn't as high as other agents. It's like, yeah, of course it wasn't. You increased every boss's max anomaly buildup so that if they didn't pull for Yuzuha, they all felt terrible. And then you happen to make the fights where you would want to use Bernice, Miles McFiend, resist fire. So like the one anomaly boss you would want to use Bernice in, she feels awful. I'm sure she's fine in Shiyu defense. That's perfectly fine. Depending on I use her because I don't have Vivian. I use her with Miyabi, and just if I see a fight with Miyabi, I'll just be like, you know what, this is fine. We'll just get a couple disorders. Miyabi beats Dicko, boom. So to recap all of this up, most anomaly teams have to rely on Vivian because too many enemies are weak to ether, and Yuzuha because of anti-anomaly boss design. Don't even get me started on the boringly generic stage buffs for anomaly teams. Most stage buffs have, like, if they're going to buff an anomaly team, it will read something like this. Increase anomaly something by Y%. And when you do an anomaly, here's what happens. That's usually the buff. That is the extent of the buff. And they can't do anything differently because they can't control what teams you're going to pick for this anomaly boss. So they have to be really generic and boring. Yeah, it's not that the buff itself is bad, it's just that the buff itself is so boring. There are so much variety for like attacker teams. Your basic attacks, EXs, and ultimates reduce the enemy's resistance to your element by 20% or something. Anomaly teams don't get that stuff. They just get like, oh, you have some more AP. And if you do your element, you'll have more anomaly mastery. It's like, wow, that's so interesting. That's crazy. Now we are actually going to talk about the Angels of Delusion. Did I spell this wrong? I think this is how it's spelled. Anyway, Sunna. Sunna? I'm not going to assume that it's Sunna. Ha ha. No, don't laugh. Don't laugh at that. Sunna is a physical support. We know this because they told us she would be. I am going to keep this section as generic as it needs to be. I don't want to get specific details on leaks. Personally, I think leaks can hinder my enjoyment of the game, and that's why when I deal with leaks, I just read kits. I don't want to see animations. I think it's okay if you're like, oh, I want to see what they look like. I think that's fine if you want to look for it. I don't want to look for it. I get really annoyed when it pops up in my feed, and it's like, oh wow, look at this new kit that's been leaked. Like, nope, I don't care about that. I don't want to see that. I don't find it fun to look at a character and be like, oh wow, they look really cool, and we're not going to be able to use them for another month and a half. So don't worry, I am not showing you anything. I am going to talk about what they will do in generic terms. The physical support will support the team. Ooh, what a shock. What a shock. And since Aria is an anomaly agent, Sunna's obviously going to be a support that buffs anomaly teams, right? Like, that makes sense. What else would she be? So obviously, she buffs your attack, the stun damage multiplier, and she gives the debuff that increases the attribute damage for attackers, like a quick burst of damage. And this burst of damage will crit for anomaly agents. What? Hold on, that's not right. She's buffing an anomaly agent, but she's increasing the stun damage multiplier. That doesn't seem right. Does this look funny to anyone? Hello? We'll talk a bit more about that later. Now let's actually get to Aria, the face of the group for right now. She's an ether anomaly agent, and we have her drive disc. I can just pull it up right now, why not? When the equipper's basic attack hits an enemy, their AP increases by 36, blah blah blah, repeated, blah blah blah. When any enemy on the field is stunned, the equipper's damage increases by 25% for 18 seconds. That's a strange buff for an anomaly DPS. That doesn't seem right. You can already farm for this, so this is not a spoiler. If you think this is a spoiler, then you haven't played the game for the past 2 weeks. I don't know what to tell you. So what does that tell us about Aria as a character? As I say, this one should be more obvious, but what's in her kit is that she has a lot of anomaly mastery, she has burst damage, and she deals more damage when enemies are stunned. That doesn't sound right. That's not an anomaly character, that's an attacker, right? Like, burst damage while enemies are stunned. I just described like half the attackers. This is not an anomaly character. What is this? Anyway, moving on from that. I have no idea how to pronounce her name. Nangong Yu, whatever her name is. It's this girl. I don't know how to pronounce this name. I'm not gonna try it. We've had this for a while. Like, if you want to worry, oh, this is leaked content. It's like, yeah, it's leaked content that's been available for like the past year. I don't know what to tell you. Not trying to be insensitive. I just don't know how to pronounce it. It's unconfirmed what she is, but let's put in our thinking caps. Let's use 10% of our brain power. Sunna, she will buff your stun damage. Okay, that's step 1. Aria wants to deal damage during stun. That's step 2. So, with that information, what will Nangong Yu be? She will be a rupture agent! Right? I mean, that's what it has to be, right? Obviously, she's a rupture agent. What else could she be? Hold on. I'm looking this over real quick. This is the wrong slide. Yeah, this is actually the wrong slide. Hold on. She's a stun agent. There we go. See, that makes a lot more sense. I don't know where that other side came from. She's a stun agent, obviously. Okay, writing's on the wall. Oh, wow, the character that wants to stun enemies will get a stun support for them. Yeah, cool. Anyway, in total, this seems really weird. Why does this seem weird? I'm afraid to talk about this information specifically because I don't really know the specifics about this boss at all. And again, this is leaked information. This could always change. As of right now, the boss for Aria is going to be weak to ether. Pretend to be shocked. The DPS is getting a boss that is weak to their element. Ooh, what a surprise! Act surprised, everybody. But this is the part that is like not confirmed. It is in the beta, so this could still change. Come in with an open mind. This might not actually be true. This boss resists. What elements do you think this boss will resist? Ice, obviously. Fire and ice. People are saying fire and ice. Fire and electric, that's possible. Obviously, it can't resist ether because we're trying to sell the ether character. Should it resist physical? I mean, that makes sense. Maybe they decide, you know what, Alice, you've had your time in the sun. We want to make sure this boss resists physical. So that way, also, you can't force Yishengguang against this boss. Because this is an anomaly fight, right? As of right now, this boss resists ice, and it's unfreezable. Pretend to be shocked. A 2.0 boss being unfreezable, not a surprise. So it resists ice and fire. That would be a real shame if they buffed a fire anomaly agent and you had nowhere to play her right now. Wouldn't that feel awkward? Wouldn't that be really weird? It's so bizarre. Like, why? Yes, we buffed your off-field anomaly agent so you could use her more places. Where are those places? Not against these bosses. You ain't using her against this boss? You ain't using her against Fiend? Where am I using her? I'm dunking on Bernice because the devs have made her feel worse to play, and there's no real reason to. It's the devs' fault that Bernice has no good matchups. And from what I can tell, this is not a normal Anomaly boss. Most Anomaly bosses are get a bajillion disorders and call it a day, right? That's every boss. Bringer basically, when he summons his god hand, he says, I take extra disorder damage. Notorious Dead End Butcher, his performance points are, get a bunch of disorders on me. Miasmic Fiend has this, I don't think Miasmic Fiend says disorder specifically, but she really increases like the anomaly damage you do against her a lot. And usually for that, you want to have a bunch of disorders. Bernice is the Hugo of Anomaly. That's insane. That's a great comment. You're getting pinned for that one. That's so funny. It sounds so wrong, but it feels so right. As you can tell from how these other 3 agents have been described, this boss is more of an Anomaly stun boss. So all of that sounds weird. In total, what are the Angels doing? They are a hyper carry Anomaly team that are kind of designed to function like an attack team. That's kind of weird for anomalies in general. We do have hyper carry Anomaly teams, but they are more like creations that people have made just because they're good. Like you can run Alice, Yuzuha, Nicole because Nicole is just buffing your damage a bunch. You don't care about her crit rate buffs at Mindscape 6. It's just a ton of defense shred, and that's perfectly fine for Alice because Alice already does a bunch of damage. More importantly, as a group, they do not care about disorders. I don't know if I can stress this enough. The design of their group has nothing to do with disorders. Obviously, Aria will work. If you want to build a disorder team around Aria, you can, but Aria is designed to function perfectly fine without any disorders. Again, they're still in the beta. They could definitely change their designs of Aria to be like, actually, no, I want to deal infinite damage with disorders, and Nangong is going to only buff disorder damage or something. They could totally change it. They probably won't, especially since we already have her drive disc, which tells us she wants to hit stunned enemies, which most disorder teams don't run stunners unless they're desperate and just use trigger. So in total, what does this mean for the game? It means that we are getting a different-ish playstyle. It's different is that it's finally officially pushed by the game. It's a playstyle that's not built in a hollow with a bunch of corrupted scraps because I want to dork around in Shiyu or DA. It's not like, oh, well, we already had a different playstyle. See, you could play Soldier 11 Lighter Bernice. It's like, yeah, you could. I did that. That team functions. You will burn enemies. You will get Inferno Metal active. It's a decent team. It's okay. It ain't great. I wouldn't sell you that team. Unless you really love that team, I would not sell you that team. If you have Bernice's Mindscape 2, her Mindscape 2 gives 20% pen ratio to all attacks. If you pair her with Rina, you can basically get up to like 100% pen ratio total. No one plays that team because it's not good. It means that Anomaly teams can operate on an axis that isn't just Disorder Turbo. If you remember the recap, what is everyone's best team? Everyone's best team was just Yuzuha Vivian, because all they want is disorders, and that's the only thing they can do. Now we're getting an Anomaly team that basically says, yeah, I don't care about disorders. That's cool. That's what I would say is a healthier balance of what Mono Shock and Mono Ice want to do. This could be Yuzu Ice. The reason I say it's a healthier balance is that Mono Shock is essentially Grace, Rina, Anton, or Harumasa. And so they still play around like you get an anomaly and then you switch into your attacker to deal a bunch of burst damage, right? And Mono Ice is to stun the enemy and then you keep them as stunned for as long as humanly possible. What I'm guessing this team will be is that this team will be a healthier balance of I am going to be an anomaly burst team that wants to play around stun, but also not stun the enemy indefinitely. Why does this make me hopeful? I should probably put an asterisk next to this. It makes me hopeful in some aspects. But if this trend continues, it means that this could allow for more variety in anomaly teams. And that's because as of right now, they are creating more types of, quote, viable anomaly teams. The reason I can say this is because Harumasa, from what it looks like right now, this might be completely wrong, but Harumasa will no longer be a third wheel. Why do I say that? Well, we're getting a team that says, hey, we want to get Anomaly and stun the enemy. You know what team Harumasa would really love to be on? A team that gets anomalies and stuns the enemy. Wow. No, wait, that's crazy. It's almost like they plan on buffing Harumasa. That would be crazy. Nah, they can't do that, because why would they buff Harumasa? Okay, my biggest issue with Harumasa is that Harumasa is a pretty good agent that looks at anomaly teams and says, hey, can I join? And all the anomaly agents look at him and say no. The only one who says that is Grace, and that's because Grace isn't very good enough on her own. Even Miyabi, yeah, you can play Miyabi Harumasa. Harumasa likes that team. You know who doesn't like that team? Miyabi. Miyabi does not want to play with Harumasa. With this new team, it could also mean they're going to make Harumasa, who wants to play around stunning the enemies and getting anomalies, maybe he'll feel a lot better to play. Almost like he's going to get a buff, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. This is very subtle. It's also possible they're just trying to make more money. Nice disorder teams you have. You know what would be great? If we sold you a bunch of characters that don't get disorders and have them fight a boss that doesn't really care about disorders. So you have to spend more money. That's very possible. I wouldn't put it past them. There are already so many fanatics of this group. They don't need to make them Ye Shengguang levels of overpowered. They could just make them really good, really fair and balanced, and people would still buy them. Oh, I did put that slide here. I've totally forgot I put this slide here. Oh man, it's a shame we made all anomaly teams bad without Yuzuha. If only you could buy a brand new agent to help you solve that issue. Buy Aria! To clarify for everybody, Disorder still deserves to be powerful and relevant. I am not arguing that Disorder should become bad and unusable and they should make it an archaic system that no one ever uses again. That's dumb. Disorders are still fun and cool. I want Disorders to still be relevant. But Disorder teams should not be the only viable teams for Anomaly agents. It should be a really good team for them, but it should not be the only option for half the Anomaly agents. It feels sad. It feels bad. Because that makes the class stale, stifling, and suffocating. There was nothing else for them to do except play Yuzuha Vivian. That doesn't feel fun. It really stifles what the class can do as a whole. I don't like that. And personally, you never see me play normal teams because I don't think they're exciting to play. So, like, for example, I said Soldier 11 Lighter Bernice. Is that a team that works? Yes. Is that team functional? Yes. Is that team great? No, it's not. That team's not great because there is not content designed to make Inferno Metal really good, I guess. You can still try, like you can still try it, but I would not recommend someone go buy Bernice and Lighter for their Soldier 11 Inferno Metal team. I would not recommend it. Yes, when Pompeii returns, that's a great idea. Would it be fantastic if Pompeii returned? Yeah, we're still waiting for that. Like, oh man, Bernice would feel fantastic if Pompeii returned. He hasn't been around for like the past 3 months. He might show up again later, but it stinks. I want Bernice to have more favorable matchups, and she just doesn't. And none of the matchups she's good in are like anomaly coded fights. It's so sad. In conclusion, let me know what you want to see from anomaly teams. Subscribe if you feel like it. You don't have to, but like, hey, if you're watching this far, you obviously watched the full thing. So like, you probably liked it to some degree. I don't know, if you want to see more of this stuff, subscribe. If you don't, that's fine. It'll probably show up anyway. YouTube has a pretty good algorithm for that stuff. If you feel so inclined, you can become a sponsor by becoming a YouTube member. Please don't ever feel obligated to do this. It does help me, but like, I would make these videos regardless. If you want to show some love, perfectly fine. If you have financial reasons for not doing that, totally understandable. Don't give what you don't have. Shoutouts to my super sponsors, Super Bro and I Love My PC Necros. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. My name's Yojimbo Blade, and I hope you have a blessed day. See you soon.